and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so excited that you are here, and I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. Today's video is a creepy one because we are going to be diving into yet another entity that's out there in the world. And today's entity is a humanoid entity known to many as the Smiling Man. In this video, we're going to explore the first known sightings of the Smiling Man, kind of give you guys a background of who the Smiling Man is said to be, why you should absolutely run from him should you encounter him in the streets, and then beyond that, I'm going to share a couple of experiences with the Smiling Man with you guys. It's gonna be a creepy one. So the Smiling Man is exactly that, a man that is frequently spotted and identified by his smile. Now, typically when you think of someone smiling, it's supposed to be a happy, joyous thing, but not with this Smiling Man. His smile is big and wide and sinister, and the moment that people notice his smile/grin, they feel wildly uncomfortable. So the Smiling Man is always said to be over 6 feet tall. He's an incredibly tall man with a very big smile. He's often seen wearing like an old-fashioned suit, and sometimes he's seen wearing a hat as well. He often is seen looking up towards the sky with this big smile, and he almost like dance walks. Like, it's very strange. I'll get into some experiences so you'll get a better description on it. But he's easily identified by, number one, what he's wearing and his big giant smile, but also the way he like waltzes while he's walking. Ooh, it sounds so creepy even while I'm like imagining it. Many of the stories seem to come from Iowa, and he typically stalks like dark streets and isolated homes. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this video, because her house is isolated and really freaking dark at night. But anyway, good thing we don't live in Iowa. And he is never seen without his giant, unnatural, creepy smile. So he's actually known to some as Indrid Cole, and we'll get into where that name came from in just a moment, but I'm gonna read you guys like a description that I found online of him, and then a couple of the early on encounters leading into more recent encounters. So it says, Indrid Cole, commonly known as the Smiling Man, is an allegedly humanoid entity. His name comes from his tendency to smile at those who encounter him. It is said that he still visits places to this day. So he's reported to be human-like in appearance, though is commonly associated with UFO activity and is sometimes believed to be an alien, which we'll get to in a moment, a particular individual's experience where he supposedly said he is an alien, but we'll get there. It is also believed that he could possibly be connected to the Men in Black as well. In his first sighting, he was described, as I said, of being over 6 feet tall, and in that sighting, he was wearing a reflective green suit with a black belt. He had a dark complexion and small beady eyes set far apart. He was described as not having a nose, ears, or hair, and in the second encounter, his suit was said to be blue instead of green, but it still retained its reflective property. Along with that, he was described as looking perfectly natural with slicked back hair and a coat with the 2 top buttons unbuttoned and having pants lighter than the coat but still the same material. He was also described as being quite tan and looking like any normal human being despite his like really unnatural smile. So from what I gather from this is, yes, he's commonly seen in a suit, but the suit can change colors. The man has options. So the very first sighting was actually in October. It was October 16th, 1966. I should state the first known sighting. 2 boys in New Jersey were walking on 4th Street when they saw a surreal figure standing near a fence. As they walked closer, the figure was a tall man wearing a metal green suit who was staring right at them with a huge grin. The man chased them until they got away from him. There's a quote here that says, "Jimmy nudged me, and I said, 'Who's that guy standing behind you?' I looked around, and there he was, behind the fence, just standing there. He pivoted around and looked right at us. with his big old grin. Later on, they would recall more details about the man, stating that he had unnatural facial features and what they perceived as lack of ears and a nose. Here's where things get really strange. On November 2nd, 1966, in West Virginia, a man was driving home on Interstate 77 when he heard a crash. Then an unidentifiable vehicle appeared to land in front of his truck. It was described as like a very strange vehicle this man had never seen before. A grinning man came out of the vehicle with a dark tan and walked up to the man, telepathically saying that his name was Indrid Cold and that he meant no harm. He said that he just wanted to know more about the human race and he would keep visiting in the future. After the encounter, he stated that the man told him that he was from a completely different planet. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He said he was from the planet of Lanulos. Lanulos? I'll put it on the screen. But he told them that he was from a different planet. And another encounter was with a family stating that they had a lot of poltergeist activity occurring in their home, such as like seeing a bunch of diamond-shaped lights. Their daughter was sleeping one night and woke up to see a man standing over her. It was a man, a big man, very broad. I couldn't see his face, but I could see that he was grinning at me. He walked around the bed and stood right over me. I screamed again and hid under the covers. When I looked again, he was gone. So in this particular article, they say that Indrid, or the smiling man, is likely an alien entity, but it could also be something to do with the paranormal as well. There are some people who believe that he's associated with an actual species of aliens, so that there's like multiple grinning men, which could also make sense why they're always wearing like different things. Like in some, I think like in one encounter I read, he was supposedly bald, and another one he had hair, and another one he wore a hat, and another one he didn't. The suits are different. But hey, he could be changing up his hair and his look and his clothes. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. But upon further digging, you guys, I found more stories. There are actually so many people who have said to have had an encounter with said smiling man. So I'm gonna read to you guys a longer encounter that was posted online. And actually this encounter caused a chain of people commenting saying, oh my gosh, I've seen this man too. So this was posted in 2012 and it says, about 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite. But all of that changed in just a few minutes one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police-patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back from my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street on my side was a silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him majority of the sidewalk to pass me. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky, wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were open, wide and wild, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off of him to cross the street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back and then stopped dead in my tracks. He'd stopped dancing and was standing with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, keeping my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he'd been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He'd crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he'd moved fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time, staring at him, and then he started moving towards me again. He took a giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there completely frozen as this smiling man crept towards me. And then he stopped again, about a car length away from me, still smiling, his smile still looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. I meant to ask, "What the F do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone, but all that came out was a whimper of "what the," and then like the words in half. Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that only made me more afraid. But he didn't react. He just stood there smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turns around very slowly and started dance walking away. Just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him, I watched him go until he was far enough away to be out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time, he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk. He didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane, and that is a very, very scary thing to see. So this encounter, as I mentioned, brought forward so many more encounters, you guys. People were commenting saying that the smiling man had chased them down. In one particular experience, a guy said that he fell. He was so scared, and the smiling man just grinned above him. And then we have to go back to the experience where way back in the day, this man said that the smiling man told him he was just from another planet and meant no harm. But either way, there is something so unsettling about this man. As I said, nobody knows. Is he an alien? Is he an entity? What is he? But one thing is for sure, if you see the smiling man, you should run, or you may be the one to find out. What do you guys think of the smiling man, the grinning man? Do you think it is an alien just trying to see what Earth is all about? Do you think it is an entity? What do you guys think, and what do you think the smiling man wants? Please, please, please let me know down in the comment section below. And that is the smiling man. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed but you enjoy my content, I would seriously love it if you go ahead and click that subscribe button. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, I love you.